talking blues thing. It's about a couple of characters that somehow managed to get into all kinds of trouble, and more miraculously, they managed to get out. They somehow escape every time, and so this is about some of their adventures. One of them's named Split, and the other one's named Slide. I sang this song for a few years and wrote it hundreds of years ago. And I finally wrote a sequel to it. I started borrowing characters from, in the second one, Pancho and Lefty show up, and Mr. Bud and Mr. Gold show up too. And Leo and Leona, of course, and Mario and Maria, I've told you about, and several other folks from different songs. I couldn't keep them out of the song, and I couldn't figure out how to. It kept going on. It got to like 10 minutes, 11 minutes, and I was going, how am I going to end this? And so finally, I just killed them all off at the end. Kind of like a B-grade movie, you know, just like they all blow up at the end. But they all died in different ways. It was really weird, you know. And I thought, oh boy, at last I'm done with it. And then about a week later, I started having these weird visions and dreams about Split and Slide number 3, which is where they all go up to heaven and start raising hell up there, and they set fire to things and get kicked out. And they all get kicked out and get reincarnated with split personalities. So it's like layer cakes of insanity. And I finally finished the third one just about a year or so ago, and then last summer I performed it for the first time, and it clocked in at 35 minutes. The people who sat through it actually everybody sat through it. It was very weird. It surprised me. But I'm going to figure out some kind of reward to give to them.
Where was that?
It was last August, actually, at the Cactus Cafe there in Austin. And so what's happening is I finally figured out what I'm doing there is inventing a whole new genre of music called hard listening. And so I'll give you a small dose of it right now. This is Split and Slide number 1, though. This is the one that started it all off. Now Split and Slide were gliding along. They were hot-footing it and singing a song at the top of their lungs, at the top of their voice. They needed some help because they had no choice but to lie a little to everybody they met. Well, Split would swear and Slide would curse, and things got better and things got worse. They rambled around from town to town. They gambled and they laid their money down. They lost a little to everybody they bet. But you know, Split didn't mind and Slide didn't care. They knew everybody's got a burden to bear, and theirs was simple. They were born to lose. So Split started getting some bright ideas, and believe it or not, Slide got his, and the next thing you knew, they decided to pick and choose. So Split, he picked the proper time, and Slide picked a good high mountain to climb. They got halfway up, then they came back down. And Split, he slipped and started to slide, and Slide, he slipped and split his side, and said, Split, let's keep our feet on level ground. Oh yeah. Well, you can't always toe the line, baby, you can't always tell the time, and circumstance is gonna change right to wrong. You can't always win a fight, honey, you can't always see the light, and a rose cannot bloom the whole year long. Now, Split had a daughter named Lame Eileen, and Slide had a son he'd never seen, and that worthless little feller was known by the name of Slick. So Eileen and Slick, they chanced to meet in the middle of the river in the summer heat. They just bumped heads a-going for an innocent swim. And Slick said, marry me just for fun. His brain had been boiling in the blazing sun, but Eileen took it seriously and she accepted him. Split had to give the bride away, and he did so, and then he backed away. In that old hot church he went and stood by the fan. And then Slick and Slide came down the aisle. They were out of order, walking single file, but somehow it all seemed to fit in the preacher's plan. Yeah, the preacher said, Lord, help us now and bless this holy wedding vow. Slick said to himself, the Lord either will or he won't. The preacher said, Slick, you take her for your bride. Slick looked at her and then he looked at Slide. He was supposed to say, I do, but he said, I don't. Well, about that time, Split hit the fan, lost a thumb and a finger off of his right hand, went screaming right out of that church and throwing a fit. And then Slick and Slide, they saw their chance to get out of that ill-fated fool's romance. They all went running down the road, lickety-split, yeah, yeah. You can't always toe the line, baby, you can't always tell the time, and circumstance are gonna change right to wrong. You can't always win a fight, honey, you can't always see the light, and a rose cannot bloom the whole year long. Now, Split and Slide were tired and sore and sick and tired of being so poor. If money was rain, they'd been a 7-year drought. Split said, Slide, that's par for the course. You talk like a dog, I talk like a horse, and this here's a-coming straight from the horse's mouth. Here's what he said. He said, one place is good as the next, I swear, and 2 places are better than anywhere. So I'll meet you there, and you meet me here, and we'll rob the Bank of America. And Slide says, Split, that's a pretty good plan. He stood right up and he shook his hand, said, all we're gonna need is a little bit of help from Erica. Well, that was his girl, and she was from way down south, with a look in her eye and a drawl in her mouth, and they all agreed she'd be the inside man. You know, Erica, she got to thinking it through and decided that the best thing for her to do was to keep her job and turn those 2 fools in. Yeah, Erica sort of sold him down the river. Split had about a half a mind to forgive her, but Slide had the presence of mind to say, let's split. So Split they did, and they went and hid down a dirty alley underneath the garbage lid, and they laid low till the trash man came. Well, I guess they ran plumb out of luck. They got loaded up in that garbage truck on a rock and rollin' ride to the other side of town. They drove them down to the old dump yard and dumped them out. Man, they landed hard, splitting by Slide right side upside down. Yeah, yeah. You can't always toe the line, baby, you can't always tell the time, and the circumstance are gonna change right to wrong. You can't always win a fight, honey, you can't always see the light, and a rose cannot bloom the whole year long. Now, the Split was down without much hope, and Slide was out to the end of his rope. They'd both just about give up at trying to win. Yeah, the 2 of them started seeing double. They didn't have the energy to deal with trouble, so their rambling days came quickly to an end. They started into singing again in a smoky old bar in the very back end, and a few small tips and a drink was all their pay. But even that got a little too slow, and it left them with nowhere else to go but through the back screen door of an old cafe. That's where Slide sings harmony all alone, and Split keeps playing Slide's trombone, and the customers all come in for a bite to eat. They complain about the service and the price of toast, but the words from them you're gonna hear the most is that Split and Slide, man, they never miss a beat.